Well, I've started all of these before. I've said I only ever come into these with one question, and we'll get that out of the way in a minute. It's the boring question when I'm going to go to you, Martin, and ask you, what is the Unhealer about? But before that, for the sake of the people viewing this, for the sake of the audio listeners to this show, could we just go around the horn, say who you are, what part you have in the movie, and as always, it's ladies first. So Cristi, and then Kayla, and then we'll go around.
All right. Well, my name is Cristi Harris, and I'm a producer on it, and I also play Kayla's mom, or Dominique's mom, in the film.
I'm Kayla Carson, and I play her daughter, Dominique.
Now, gents, it's up to you to fight out who wants to go next.
I'm Shawn Harris. I am the writer and producer.
I'm Elijah Nelson, and I play Kelly.
What's up? I'm Gavin Casalegno, and I like to punch Kelly in the face.
My name is Martin Guigi. I directed the feature, The Unhealer, and I like saying actions so that Gavin can punch Kelly in the face.
And Martin, what is The Unhealer for people that don't know what it is? Because, of course, this is going out before Grimmfest. So, and I don't want to spoil anything as well, but give them a flavor of what The Unhealer is about.
I think this will be a combo with Shawn. It's the story of a teenage high schooler named Kelly who is bullied, and he also suffers from something called pica, which is an eating disorder, and he's made fun of a lot. And along the way, he stumbles onto a supernatural power, a Native American supernatural power, which gives him the ability to inflict pain on anybody who inflicts pain on him, but we call that reverse pain. And that's sort of my segue to Shawn.
Martin is right.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, it's about. It's also about an eye for an eye, and when these bullies pick on Kelly after he has these powers, anything that happens to him gets reflected back on the person that gives him the pain. So that's kind of a fun spin on the whole revenge and bullying theme. And when somebody very dear to Kelly is killed during a prank, he goes on revenge to get those people and settle the score.
I love the whole premise of it. When it comes out of what's going to happen of that, if you're going to give pain, you're going to receive it too. I was like, yes, I was in right from the very beginning, just from that, before anything else appeared before me. How did that idea originally come to mind?
Well, my writing partner, Kevin, actually came up with the concept. As writers, you're always looking for new spins, new ideas, new characters for your movie. And this came out of a couple articles that he read. One of them was like a Dear Abby type of article. And the woman wrote in and said, I eat, those little crayon boxes that have 60 crayons in them?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
She ate 2 of those a week. She wrote it into Dear Abby and told her that's what she did. And she wasn't concerned about eating the crayons. She was concerned about gaining weight. So that struck in his head. And then he also read another article about a woman that, a little girl that couldn't feel any pain. She had no way to feel pain. So we kind of put those together and we said, hey, what about a superhero kind of thing? Maybe, just kind of snowballed into what we had. And we've gone through a lot of rewrites. So this story changed many times over the years.
I loved it as well because I felt a certain affinity for Kelly, because back when I was at school, I didn't eat everything. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't eating clothes and all of this that happens in the movie. And you've got to remember, it was the 1970s, but I still don't know why my parents thought this was good to do. But as my school snack, I would take in a raw sausage and eat a raw sausage. And I was like, I was eating raw meat. What the hell is going on? So when I saw that Elijah, you were just chowing down and everything, I could sort of relate to you. I was going, well, yeah, in a way, because the kids were, taking the mickey out of me eating a raw sausage and me thinking it was all right. And you do, obviously you don't actually eat, Elijah, in the movie, but you have to pretend to consume a fair amount of different things. What was that like, doing that on camera?
It was a lot of fun. It was rice cakes was a lot of
okay.
they had stuff. They can make it look like styrofoam and look like whatever they wanted. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun to just explore that space and have fun with that.
Because there is a scene where you and Kayla are eating rice cakes. So you didn't have to pretend it was anything else for that one. So that was
my favorite scene, by the way. I love that scene. It's just
a lot of peanut butter is needed. Do not recommend eating dry.
The reason why I did rice cakes was when Kevin and I were in college, he would eat rice cakes and I would tell him that it tastes like styrofoam. I don't understand how you like those things, because I think they're good. So that was my jab back at him as a joke. That's why I put rice cakes in.
If you
There's
get
a lot of those things in
jokes
there.
It's I feel like I should be booing you, Gavin, because your character in the movie. I love movies where it sets up the bad guys. And again, because I've got older now, and I'm watching these films, and it's the bad kids, and I get my grumpy old man head on and go, but you play the part. You play the part really well and convincingly. That I hated you on screen. I go, oh. What's it like playing the bad guy on screen? It's got to be a lot of fun, surely.
Oh man! Well, first, thank you for hating me. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I did a good job. But it's super interesting because we even discussed this in the audition room when I was first auditioning. I was like, I don't really play the bad guy normally. Like I'm like in real life, I try to be really nice. So it's like it was really a switch for me to try to do that. But I think what was really cool about Reed was he was kind of the only guy that it didn't really show throughout the whole. It was kind of more in a lot of internal stuff, but he was the only one that started out as probably one of the meanest bullies to actually like physically fight Kelly. And then he turns out and he's like, actually, like, I don't know if I want to be doing this. And I think it's partly out of fear and then partly out of guilt and remorse for killing his specific someone. And I think that all kind of made it for a beautiful character arc for Reed that was really fun to watch. I was like, wow, I'm actually like happy with how Reed turned out versus how some of the other bullies turned out.
Yeah.
Right. You can throw shade because they're not here, so.
Yeah, say what you want about them. Carry on.
Gavin's the nicest guy you'll ever meet, by the way.
Yeah, he's so awesome.
So all the more testament to a great performance then, because it came across and I was like, I really want you to get it. Because you, Gavin, you, Kayla, and you, Elijah, you go through stuff in this movie, and taking it in turns. And again, ladies first. What was some of the tougher times that you had to endure? I know it's no surprise there's blood in the film, and there's some gory effects. Things happen, shit goes down. I think they were not giving anything away there. What was some, maybe not the toughest days, but I would think, having been on sets myself, enjoyable days where you've got blood and effects and stuff. Starting with you, Kayla, what was one of the best days for you?
Yeah, no, that was definitely like one of the coolest things. I'd never done a horror film before, so this was something really kind of unique. And it's always really like, I'm a scaredy cat. Like I cannot watch horror movies because like I'm like Haunted Mansion and Disneyland is my threshold. So I really can't. So it's like really cool to be on the other side of it and like see how that stuff is made. And like I'd hang out in the makeup trailer a lot, and I love to see all the special effects because a lot of this stuff was done by the makeup artists, like all the blood and like all the gore and a lot of the stuff on the faces. Those were all done by our makeup artists on set, and then they like enhanced it a little bit in post. But yeah, the artists were incredible. Really cool process to see. I did like a time lapse and stuff, which is like super cool. Yeah, it was great.
What about you, Gavin? Because again, no spoilers. Things happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I've never really been in a fight either. So to be in one in a film and to film it over and over and over again, I was having a blast, man. Like, it was really cool to find like, okay, if I punch here, I have to feel it on which cheek and go which way. And there was a lot of like little things that you would never really think about, especially with the powers that Kelly has. You don't really think about it like that, but in the film, it kind of, we found super creative ways in order to do that. And it was a blast. That was definitely one of my favorite days. It was the first day on set. Mind you, it was 116 degrees that day.
What?
My shoes melted from that day, from the concrete. So it was definitely a day to remember.
That sounds like it really does. Unforgettable, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was like that temperature or higher the whole shoot. You have to like 120. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I never realized that fake blood tasted so good. Like, it tastes really minty because I have to have a lot of it like in my mouth at times. They like, load me up in my mouth and they start that way I can have the blood coming out. And so, yeah, there was a lot of blood. It was a lot of fun. There's this one shot in particular where this force shoots me back like 20 feet. Mm-hmm. And I had the stunt contraption on with wires and I had exploding, blood coming out of my chest and they had to pull me back, very suddenly. And that was loads of fun because I'm a huge stunt geek and I love that stuff. So that was a lot of fun.
That does sound fun. And your character as well goes through a really good character arc because you start off and the viewer feels a lot of empathy for Kelly and because he's bullied. And then because of what happens in the movie, the character changes. And my empathy for him was, do I feel sorry for him now because of the way that he's going? What was it like to portray a character who starts off so sweet and innocent, and the audience is going to feel all that empathy for you, and then just slowly start to turn?
Yeah, no, you actually pegged it really nicely. That was something that really drew me to the character of Kelly, was how well Shawn and everyone, crafted this character. When I was portraying him, I wanted to understand and kind of agree with every choice he made along the way. Like you said in the beginning, he has a lot of empathy because he's so bullied and picked on, and not just the people around him, but the world just puts him down so much. And like Martina said, he never really gets a break. He never gets a break. He never gets a chance to just, deal with all that. He just keeps getting put down. But then when he gets the opportunity to do something about it, he does what he thinks is the right choice.
Yeah.
And then the next right choice, and then the next right choice. But each choice along the way, it slowly gets warped until at some point, as the audience, you step back and you realize this is wrong, but you were with him the whole way. And so I loved playing that and just exploring what would make him think that every choice was the right choice until he ended up at something that was very wrong.
That's it. And that's another great thing about the story, the way that it's crafted. You can see why he's making these choices, but you're going, it's not quite going to go the way that you want it to. But you're conflicted watching it. You go, yeah, no, that's right, but it's not really. And Martin, one of the biggest compliments I can give you, from me, because I love horror films. I grew up watching horror films. I'm a child of the 60s. I grew up watching Hammer Horror on the TV through the whole video boom of the 80s. One of my favorite eras of horror is as a kid, well, actually I'd been in my 20s then, but young, is watching horror films on video. This reminded me of my favorite horror films of the 80s, watching them on video. It got that vibe for me. It made me feel like I was back in my 20s again, which is always a nice feeling. And I was watching one of those fun horror films that I've got great memories of, and that vibe came across. Was that something that you tried to do, or was it unintentional, or is it just me wanting to relive my youth a little bit?
There's no escaping that DNA, I think. Everybody has, especially if you're a creative person, or even if you're just simply a fan and a devoted fan of a specific genre, there's no escaping that first experience or the earlier experiences that really had some sort of an emotional impact. And really, the films you're speaking of also had a psychological impact. I mean, I remember my first experience, and I'm dating myself, but I was a kid. I mean, I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old, and I snuck into The Exorcist when it was in theaters. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that was it. It was sort of like, okay. And I could see where everything was happening that was not real, which in a way was the introduction to the art form of that genre. And so I always gravitated towards, Nightmare on Elm Street and maybe, whatever happened to Baby Jane, because I went to film school and I studied that genre and I studied several different genres, but I was always attracted to where you could break rules.
Yeah.
And if it always felt that in the thriller or psychological or horror or supernatural thriller genres, you could make your own rules and even break them as you go along. Mm-hmm. And from a visual perspective or a textual perspective, which is what even though all this plays into the same boiling pot and the same menu, I was always impacted by folks like Brian De Palma or certain directors who told the story in images and had it also be a little bit of a play, maybe, where you felt you were in the room where it was happening. So I've always applied that style in filmmaking in general, because then you create this sort of like realism. And Shawn and I had talked about this quite a bit before we made the movie, which was that we wanted it to really have a sense of realism. Even on set, whenever we had questions, whenever we had artistic questions, the answer was always, well, let's play it as real as could be. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of our mantra. But I love the era you speak of. And I think that there's very few films in the history of movie making that captured what you just described, that sort of texture.
Oh yeah, I honestly can't remember the last time I watched a horror film that gave me that feeling as though I was back there and just lapping up every minute of it and the whole vibe of it. It was really good. Cool, yeah. And Shawn, I've got to ask you about the script. There's a scene near the beginning with Lance and Red Elk, and it's where Lance walks away from him and he's flipping him the bird and he's coming out with all this stuff. I've got to ask, was that in the script, or did Lance improvise some of that?
That was all Lance.
I thought it might have been.
Yeah. That's actually one of my favorite scenes in the film, because it does ground everything about the movie early on in the first act.
It does.
And sorry to interrupt, Shawn. Lance, incidentally, as Shawn just said, that was all Lance. Lance's method, if you will, connects to things in his life. Mm-hmm. Because that morning, the morning of that shoot, of that particular scene, Lance and I were having breakfast and we were talking about the scene. And Lance, while he was talking about the scene, recounted a story from his childhood. And he told me the story and he started doing this thing with his fingers. And I said, wait a minute, what are you doing? What is that? And he goes, well, and I said, well, you got to do that on camera. I said, that's perfect. And so it's very organic for him, everything that he does.
It's interesting.
He likes to, he's really good about using the words we write, but he also will add, what if I do this? Let's try it out. And so a lot of the little, I like to call them juicy moments, come from the actors. I mean, I'd love to take credit for it, writing it, but no.
I did love that scene. I was actually on set with Lance for a week on Hellraiser Hellworld, so I can relate to what you were saying about and the chats that I had with him on set and about how he brings stuff in from his own life into the roles and everything. And just going around. So let's begin with like Cristi and then Kayla, and then move on to Gavin and Elijah. With your parts, was there anything like that where, even though the story's fantastical, was there anything from your own life that you brought into the role as well?
Well, I brought my daughter.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
So personally, because I had my daughter Kayla, and then I had my actual daughter sitting up on the countertop. So that was just kind of a fun little thing Martine threw in at the last minute, because she was sitting there and she was watching everything. So we put her up on the counter and started cooking. So that was kind of a fun little moment that we had not planned for. So, it was fun. Yeah.
What about
It was
you,
a last minute choice. So thank you, Martine, because it was a lot of fun. And thank you, Shawn.
All in the family.
All the family. Like it was a family production. And I say that all the time because we had everyone's family on set.
Oh, that's good.
And we became family with everybody's, the characters and their families. So it was really wonderful. But go ahead, Kayla.
I brought my mom. That's what I brought. My mom came with me, and so did Elijah's mom, and they were friends on set. For me personally, like a fun thing was I was homeschooled for high school, so I never really got like a real high school experience. So it was pretty cool to actually like be in a high school and like have a locker, and like I just felt like super cool and being out in like the quad. So that was definitely something that was like really cool to experience that I hadn't before.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. It's like a proper high school, it felt like.
Yeah, and you've got it on film. It's there forever for you to see, you in high school.
I know. I'm like, if anybody asks, I did go to high school. You can watch it in this movie.
That's funny. And that's the best thing about acting, I think, is because I got to be a cheerleader, but I never made the cheerleading squad. But my first film, I got to be a cheerleader. And it was filmed in my
I'm not a runner.
I was like,
That's brilliant.
I'm not a runner. I got to play one, so that was super fun.
What about you, Gavin?
Oh man, I think, what did I bring to set? It's I think I being from high school and kind of witnessing a little bit of the, sorry to somber down the moment, y'all. It was very exciting and I was getting a kick out of it. But I think to bring in own my own personal experience with bullying and what I've witnessed around me in high school, I think to bring in those personal experiences, I was really able to kind of channel into Reed a little bit more, and then also channel into how Elijah and Kelly is feeling through the scene and how I'm supposed to make him feel during the scene. And I think that it definitely pushed the scene along a little bit is from those personal experiences, which is really cool that we're able to do that, even though some experiences might not be as great as some others. I think all in all, we can make it work for good and show something that probably needs to be talked about.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
How about you,
Elijah?
I just really related to Kelly on a personal level because of how much he intensely loves his family or those whom he loves and is close to, and just the desperate desire to take care of them and to protect them at all costs and to really do to do the right thing. And I think that's what really drives Kelly is those desires, even when it goes too far.
Mm-hmm. I loved the use of practical effects in this as well to forward the story. And there was, like you said, some have been CG enhanced a little bit, but mostly it was the practical effects. And I again, listeners to the show know that I'm always banging on about practical effects over CG if you can use them. And Martin, you as a director, when you're using practical effects on set, is that easier for you to work with than having to? Well, even now, you don't need to imagine the CG. You can see it on different monitors that you can use. Does it make it easier when everything's on set? I presume as actors as well, it's easier for you when it's something physical to work with rather than any CG work. But as you as a director, Martin, does that make it any easier with practical?
It's nice when it's organic and it becomes a catalyst for the emotional elements in a scene when you can actually hold it, feel it, vibe it, be there, and it makes it, again, part of the realism or the authenticity. It really is the connective tissue to the honesty that the lens wants to capture. There is something to be said about, the times where it feels like it gets in the way. And that's the only time I say, well, can we really make it work in post so that it doesn't get in the way, during a scene? But for the most part, having it is great. Having it on set is great. And it helps a lot when you have the creative VFX folks are hard to come by. And we were really really blessed, very lucky, fortunate that we had a group of people all kind of policing that, which was great. I remember when we did the scene where well, I don't want to give anything away, but I'll just call it the face melt scene in the chemistry lab.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just awesome to have it really happening. I mean, it was like, holy shit, you know, it's like, whoa. And it really made it, again, it took away that gray area and it made it real.
And it's good because you go through so many emotions watching this as well. As well as it's horror film, you get scared. You get, like I've said already, thanks to Gavin again, I got very angry watching it. But there's humor in it as well. There's the scene, like you said, with the face melting, and you go, whoa, like that. But then there's another effects scene, and again, without giving too much away, involving a drill that spins around. And I was laughing my head off at that. I thought that was great. So you've got two, which are horrific scenes. You wouldn't want either to experience either of those, but one's you going, oh my God, and the other one you're just laughing your ass off out. It walks a great balance between scaring you, upsetting you, angering you, and making you laugh and entertaining you, which as all of you as a group coming together and everybody else involved with it did such a great job of it. So kudos to you all for taking me through all those emotions as a viewer, and you know, all these emotions that people listening to this and watching this have still got to experience watching it.
Thank you very much. We worked hard on it, and everybody really worked hard.
What's it like now? Now we're at this stage, and it's, you know, you've all finished it ages ago, and we're building up to Grimmfest, and you're doing these press interviews, and anticipation is building for you, and you're revisiting the characters and the roles that you played in the crew and everything. What's it like now for all of you? Let's have one last go around the horn. And as always, ladies first. And let's start with Cristi.
I gotta say, it's exciting. It's so much fun because, as you've said, it's been such a long process because movies take as long as they take. I mean, I heard that before and I thought, what on earth do they mean by that? But it's true. Every movie has its own life, apparently. And it's just so exciting having the screening, which we did with the entire cast and crew in February, thank God, before COVID and pandemic and all that. So we literally made it within a couple of weeks grace period. Who knew? So I think it's just such an exciting time. And I just look forward to hopefully everybody feeling the same way and seeing all the hard work that went into it. Because I have to say, all of our cast and our director and writer, everybody was just so awesome. And I would do it again 100 times over, and hopefully we will.
Yeah, hopefully. How about you, Kayla? How's things for you now as we're building up to Grimmfest?
I think my internet's a little unstable, so I might go in and out a bit. But it was such a great time. And it was like Cristi was saying, like, you know, we wrapped this up like almost 2 years ago. So it's amazing just to all be back together and like to see it come together also. Cause when you film, you don't film in order, obviously, like it's not chronological. So you're kind of filming, you know, the end at the beginning and then the beginning at the end. And like, it's cool to see how everything comes together. Especially like watching the character arcs and stuff throughout the film. It was so cool. I love the ending of the film, not to give too much away, but I was very excited to see that in person.
And you, Elijah, how's things for you now?
Oh man, I just can't wait for people to watch it.
Yeah. Like
as an actor, you put, or just as a creative of anyone, you put so much work into it, and there's so much like personal emotion and bits of your own story, and it's so raw and vulnerable. And you put it out there, and then you don't got to find out how it is until like 2 years later. You just got to put it out there, forget about it. But I love how it turned out. I love the reception that it's getting. Anyone who's seen the film is saying how much they really enjoy it. In this movie, like you wouldn't have thought it would have looked as good as it did. It's just because everyone involved, they really believed in it. There was a spark amongst like everyone on set that they wanted to like go the extra 10% to make this movie, this project, as good as it possibly could have been, because everyone believed in it on set, and I think that really shows through in the movie.
And Gavin, people are going to see you soon being a bully.
Just average day things. I'm really excited, especially coming back to this and having my mindset back in Arizona a little bit. it really is interesting to see the growth as people we've all become after that, and the relationships that we were able to develop on set. Even 2 years later, like I'm sure some of us, we all still kind of link up every now and then. And it's like, it really is cool, the dynamic created between everybody. And I really enjoyed that part. It kind of created a small family. And it just, like Elijah said, I love the reception it's getting and how people are reacting to it. And it means a lot because we were all so vulnerable on that set and kind of dealing with a sensitive issue, bullying and cyberbullying and things like that. And I think it really shows the choices that you can make when you face those hard times and face those struggles. And you can either go one way or the other. And then it kind of scares you personally when you're agreeing with the actions that he's taking. And you're kind of like, whoa, I need to check myself a little bit. Like, why did I just agree with him doing all this? Yeah. And now there's a spinning drill? Like, what where did I go here? So I really think it definitely requires a little bit of self-reflection afterwards, and I'm just excited for people to see it. It's going to be a good message.
Me too. And Shawn, your words, your ideas are now on screen for everybody to see. That's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic feeling. And one of our Cristi, my favorite days was actually casting, because it's the first time besides she and I reading dialogue, actually seeing actors bring it to life and make it way better than we'd ever hoped. And that's what everybody did that was in the cast, for sure. And we had so much help. It's for me and Cristi and Martin. I've been working on this, and we've all been working on this every day for the last 2 years. So seeing everybody there, I've already seen them every day for the last 2 years. So it doesn't seem like the time's gone by. So it must be really painful for them going, is this movie ever coming out? And I'm like, is this movie ever coming out? But in reality, like Cristi said, it takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
We didn't settle for who could do it tomorrow. We settled for, we instead said, well, if you can't do it tomorrow, can you do it in 2 months? And they said, yeah, I'm free in 2 months. So we waited 2 months because we wanted the best visual effects we could afford and the best sound and all these things. So we're okay with it taking as long as it did, because we're really happy with what came out. And if we'd have done it a couple of years ago, if we'd have rushed it, it would have felt rushed.
And Martin, here we go. Close to release.
We do this to entertain people. So we're always thinking about an audience. When you're writing it, you're thinking about an audience. When you're shooting it, you're thinking, how is this going to impact an audience in the storytelling process? And when you're in the editing room, you're thinking, when you're working the score, when you're working the visual, everything is all about, how does this work for the audience? Will it entertain? Will it stimulate? Because ultimately, entertainment, especially during these times, is a very positive frequency. No matter no matter what the genre or the story is, when you're letting people forget about life for 90 minutes or 100 minutes, that's why we're doing this, right? And in this particular case, for any film, this is my favorite moment, is being in that theater. And I don't really watch the film. I typically watch people in the theater and see how they react to it. But in this particular case, I've known Cristi. Cristi and I met almost 20 years ago. And then I met Shawn several years ago when he presented the script to me. And I know that this has been a dream for them. So I'm just super excited about this dream coming true for them and me being a part of it. And then I think most of all, I'm excited for Kayla and Elijah and Gavin and the rest of the cast, because you guys, this is your kind of, even though you've done other things, this is a moment for you early in your career, and you're all so gifted, you're all so talented, and you really deserve for this to have, as all the good stuff that's supposed to happen for you. It should be about, this should be a big piece of that, hopefully. And that's what I'm mostly excited, is to see your careers just sort of do this. And of course I can picture Shawn fighting to get your contracts for the sequel because you're going to become stars after the nobody will be able to afford you.
Don't be too expensive. Let us get you.
Well,
We're still an independent film.
I think we need to send out some contracts right now.
Yeah. Get it done quickly.